Our offense has never looked better. You know, we went 7 straight possessions of scoring. It was fun to see. We needed it. We needed to show the world, show ourselves that, hey, we are still a really good football team. And that's what I got out of it.
Hello and welcome to the Aptive podcast studio. This is the Loyal Cougars podcast. I'm your host, Jake Edmonds, alongside Tosh McIntosh. Tosh, welcome back.
Happy to be here. What a heck of a weekend for us. So
pretty crazy that BYU top 15 in both BYU basketball, playing pretty monumental games, pretty impactful games in November.
Yeah,
it's great. Went
1 for 2, but I was happy with the effort in both games.
Yeah, great time to be a BYU fan. Let's talk about the football game first. TCU coming into town. I thought this was a game that BYU should have won pretty handedly, and they did. I'm surprised that they were, a 4.5, 3.5 point favorite.
At the end, it was 3.5 point favorites.
And yeah. I'm surprised by that. I still think that, from a national perspective, fans and pundits are still down on BYU. And I get it. I get that BYU has won close games. They haven't really, the eye test isn't really there for BYU yet. Right? They just got blown out by Texas Tech. But this is a BYU team that has shown capable, at least at times, to put up points in bunches and to have defenses, a stifling defense against pretty good offenses. And we saw that for a complete game against TCU. And I thought this was BYU's, in terms of production, I thought this was BYU's best game of the year.
Absolutely. From all aspects of football. Our offense has never looked better than we look for a complete game against TCU. We've had flashes where we've been behind and then had to play a lights out offense to get back ahead, but this was not that type of game. From snap one, we went 7 straight possessions of scoring. Our defense looked like the defense that we had seen against Stanford, against those very early season teams where we were just taking their souls. It was fun to see. We needed it.
Yeah.
We needed to show the world, show ourselves that, hey, we are still a really good football team, and that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, I mean, even you and I were both kind of down on this team last week. So we'll break this game down a little bit more. We'll talk about Cincinnati coming up, the big, massive Cincinnati game, right? That's conference championship implications. UCF to me is an afterthought. Granted, they still have to show up and win the game, but it's like Houston last year. You just show up and I think you're going to win that game. Cincinnati's going to be massive. We'll talk about that game. And then we'll break down a little bit the UConn game, BYU men's basketball against UConn. I thought there were some bright spots. Obviously in the second half, we'll talk about some of the second half stuff and what happened in the first half and what they could fix, in my opinion, moving forward. But let's take a step back real quick. So let's talk about the drop. We're going to give some of this away too. So if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're not watching on YouTube, head over to YouTube, like and subscribe to our channel, and we're going to give away this hat and a backpack. So this hat is the Cream and Royal RetroRunner BYU Fade hat. It's kind of hard to really explain. This is not embroidery. It's also not a silicone screen.
It almost looks like gel, 90s kind of gel print.
Yeah, it's like a plasticky gel on the front of that hat. So it's kind of like a shiny effect.
It's a cool hat.
Very cool hat. Got the corduroy brim. That backpack is called the RetroRunner singular, the throwback graphic. No, I'm talking about the hoodie. Let's do the hoodie real quick.
Okay.
The RetroRunner singular hoodie. Sorry, these names are pretty long. The throwback graphics on the front of that.
Similar to what was on the hat. Really cool design. 90s kind of retro, maybe even 80s retro. Good looking cream color. I think a guy or a girl could pull this off.
Looks like the Steve Young sweatshirt we had last week where it said Cougars on top. I think Steve Young was on the front of that. And then the Cougar Permafrost backpack. And this is the other thing we're going to give away. So this is the second item we'll give away. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll give away the hat. We'll give away the backpack. We'll make sure to reach out to you. Maybe comment on the video as well, and we'll find a way to reach out to you and get your information. Okay, TCU game. Bear played a nearly perfect game, and we've talked about Bear all season. I think he had a down game last week against Texas Tech. He was phenomenal.
He looked extremely poised, and his arm has never looked better.
Yeah, and accurate, right? I think that A-Rod and we'll talk about Carson Ryan too, because I think BYU's max protect kind of strategy for the last 4 or 5 weeks really limited Carson Ryan's ability to run routes and catch balls. And we didn't see a whole lot of Carson in the passing game other than for max protect, right? He was blocking a lot. Bear really spread it out, and Carson was a benefactor of this. 23 for 33, 296 yards, a touchdown, 155 QB rating. He also had a touchdown carry, I think, on 10 rushes on 55 yards or something like that. But just a phenomenal game. And part of that, too, was, and this has been kind of the theme throughout the season, is he's really good on these medium, kind of the intermediate passes. So 5 to 14 yards. He was 10 of 12 on medium passes. By the way, Josh Hoover, who I considered coming into the season as one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. I think now he's kind of middle of the pack, but I think at least coming into the year in terms of what he did last year for production, he was really good. He was 4 of 11 on those intermediate passes. BYU defense just kind of shut him down.
It was both sides. On the defense, he didn't have guys open very often, and he had rushers in his face. I can't say enough of it. What I love to see from this BYU football team is we get better, and with a lot of our players on our team, specifically our young edge rushers, they're just getting better and better and better every week.
Yeah, Nusi Tamuapeo. Keanu Tanavasa actually had a pretty impactful game too. I think he had a bunch of QB hurries. He was in the backfield quite a bit. He had that sack, obviously. And we talked, it's funny, you talked about Carson Ryan last week being kind of this, and granted, it was more of like a scheme, right? Because they
weren't using him.
They just weren't using him very much. And obviously, they used him a lot. So you need to talk about him more, apparently.
Yep.
And then I talked about Keanu Tanavasa just being not really impactful. He's obviously in the game, but he wasn't making these impactful plays. He made pretty impactful plays, and it didn't really show up specifically other than his sack on the stat sheet. But he was in the backfield. And pressuring the quarterback and getting stops in the run game defensively all game. Evan Johnson, I think, had a great game as well. Obviously, his sack was pretty big coming off the corner. Tausili Akana and John Taumuapeo also combined for a sack. Tausili Akana and Nusi Taumuapeo had phenomenal games, and those are underclassmen, right?
Akana's a sophomore. Nusi's a freshman, a true freshman, I believe, class of 25. So. Yeah, those guys are good and fast, and they fight off blocks. I'll be curious if they end up putting on size, but the reality is even at their kind of skinnier versions of themselves now, they are finding a way to get past linemen, good linemen, and get into the quarterback.
Yeah, and that's 8 sacks now in 2 games. They had 4 sacks against Texas Tech, 4 sacks against TCU. They now are tied for 4th in the Big 12 with 25 sacks. This is a team that gets in the backfield, and it gets in the backfield against pretty elusive quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Fun to watch. And then what that leads to then is BYU's ability to intercept the ball, right? Because you pressure the quarterback. BYU now leads the Big 12 in interceptions with 14. They are top 10 in the country, 14 interceptions. So they are getting pressure on the quarterback, and it's leading to interception. Satuala's pick, obviously, was a direct result of quarterback pressure, right? Rolling to the right was Josh Hoover, overthrew his receiver, Satuala, right behind him to pick it off. And then Tanner Wall's pick 6 was more of just a result of an overthrow, right? I think Josh Hoover at that point is just rattled. He overthrows the receiver, and Tanner Wall's in the back. By the way,
great effort by Wall to get to the end zone.
And it was a garbage time touchdown, right? I think in the grand scheme of the game itself, it didn't matter, right? They were going to win anyway. But and we're going to talk about this because it's so messed up that you have to run up the score nowadays, right? It's so pivotal. Utah has done it the last 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Just run up the score on whoever you play because the committee,
it's a beauty contest.
AP pollsters, they are going to be looking at the quote unquote eye test, and running up the score is part of that. Where a meaningless pick 6 by Tanner Wall, obviously, it was fun to watch.
But I loved it because I love me some Kalani. But Kalani, at his core, cannot get himself to run up the score. He can't.
Yeah.
You see with our play calls, you see with our personnel, he really takes his foot off the gas when it's obvious we're going to win. And so I freaking loved that even despite Kalani not wanting to score again, Wall made it happen.
Yeah, and people will point to BYU's offense, they just went super conservative, and that's A-Rod's fault. That's not A-Rod. That's Kalani telling A-Rod, let's let off the gas. They had 344 yards in the first half, by the way, 103 in the second half. They really offensively let off the gas. in the second half, and they ran it a lot more. Obviously, LJ Martin, big part of the game as well. We could talk about his health.
Yeah, I think he's the key to the end of the season. When he's healthy, BYU is incredibly hard to stop. I love that he had 20 rushes, that he looked like he got through that clean, and they could not stop us when we were really running the ball with a purpose. I believe you wrote down the stat that we had over 7 yards on average on first down. Mm-hmm. Like, that's incredible. And it seemed like, especially through the first 3 quarters, whenever we gave LJ the ball, he was getting almost 10 yards. And you don't lose when that's happening. If he can stay healthy, BYU is going to win multiple games in a row from here.
Yeah, it's funny. He actually didn't have. I mean, he had an efficient enough game. I think he had 21 carries, 88 yards, a little over 4 yards a carry. That's what you want. That's what you want out of a running back. Four is kind of your threshold. But he didn't have any sort of breakout carries. No 20+ yard runs. Like, it was very 4 yards a carry. We're gonna get in third and short, second and short, and LJ was a big part of that. So 21 carries, 88 yards. He had 4 catches for 31 yards. Obviously not like a career game by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a game where LJ, it's just like a very typical LJ getting stuff done game. By the way, and I've mentioned this before, LJ's ability to block is second to none. And specifically, I'm going to point out that first Parker Kingston sweep around the right side. Carson Ryan sealed the edge. He had a phenomenal block on the edge.
Carson Ryan's a great blocker.
LJ Martin was like 9 or 10 yards downfield blocking their safety.
That's awesome.
And blocked him out of the play, right? That guy probably would have tackled Parker inside the 5-yard line. He wouldn't have scored a touchdown. LJ Martin allowed him to score that touchdown. Go back and watch that game. LJ's 10 yards downfield blocking a safety.
Yeah, no, we have very good and committed blockers from our skilled position, and it's huge. Other guy I want to shout out is
Carson Ryan.
Nope, we're going to go there. But who would have guessed going into this season or any season that our go-to wide receiver would be Parker Kingston? Yeah. Like, Bear looks for Parker in a way that I would have never forecasted, and Parker, for the most part, has delivered. We do have to say he dropped the perfect pass in the end zone. Outside of that, though, he was incredible. We use him in rushing the ball, and he's really good and keeps teams' defense really having to scramble. Secondly, though, is when he gets yards after the catch, like, he's so fast and he gets open. Anyway, love what Parker's done lately.
Yeah, Parker is kind of your middle of the field option, and Bear seems to really thrive when he throws over the middle. I mean, most of his intermediate passes that we talked about, 10 of 12, are to Parker and Carson across the middle. Maybe LJ too, running some sort of halfback route, but it's those guys, right? And Chase is just as much of a workhorse down the sideline. He runs across the middle too, but that is like Bear's sweet spot is across the middle to Parker. And I love that Bear really spread it out this game. Not a single receiver had more than, I think, 5 catches. I think Chase and Parker both had 4 or 5. Carson had 4. LJ had 4, and then you spread it out to Frischnick, and obviously Cody Hagan was hurt in this game, so he didn't get any catches. But I want to say there were like 7 or 8 guys that had at least a catch.
So, Jake, it's not on the rundown, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway on the spot. What was your favorite offensive play of the game? Like, what one made you smile the most?
So, I actually wrote 2 impactful plays from Bear in this game. I thought the speed option on 3rd and long.
Yeah. He looks fast on that one.
Again, another one of those plays, and we're going to talk about A-Rod in just a second, because I think there's just no reason to doubt A-Rod at this point in the season. That speed option, if it doesn't go anywhere, let's say Bear pitches that to LJ. There's that defensive end that had, he's trying to cover both, and he ended up going for LJ. Bear keeps it and runs for a touchdown. If Bear pitches that ball to LJ, we get maybe a yard or 2, and people are thinking A-Rod's way too conservative, right? He scores a touchdown. Everyone's like, that's a great play call. Love that play call. But it's because of Bear, right? Bear keeping that ball, running it for 15, 20 yards into the end zone. That was one, probably not my favorite. My favorite was actually 4th and short. They had just thrown to Chase. Bear overthrows him. I thought there might have been a little bit of a PI, a little bit of contact, kind of grabbed him. Chase tried to sell it a little bit by falling down. That was on 3rd and short. It was 4-down territory. We knew they were going to go for it on 4th down. Everyone expected LJ to run the ball.
Yeah.
Or maybe even Bear to run like a keeper on 4th and short. The cojones on A-Rod to call that play and for Bear to throw that ball. By the way, I think the play call itself was similar to the play call that they ran. Was it Colorado or Arizona where Bear rolled to his right? It was a pass play, but he had the option to run it. So it was almost like this RPO, but not like a...
Just with the quarterback.
Just with the quarterback.
Yeah.
And Bear ran it for a touchdown against Colorado or Arizona when they first did it in like overtime, right? He threw it this time. And it was in really tight coverage. Chase had to go up and get it. To me, that was like indicative of like Bear's willing to take risks. He calculates the risk in his head mid-play. And for A-Rod's ability to trust Bear. That
was my favorite play of the game too.
Mm-hmm.
Is within the moment, the game was still very much anyone's game, 4th down, middle of the field, and Bear threw an NFL pass. Like, because the guy was not open. He had to throw it right perfectly in front of him where the defender almost got it but couldn't, and Chase had to make a very contested catch. It was great by Bear and Chase and Blake, the play call. Huge clutch 4th down, and then we ended up going down and scoring. And so, like, love to see that. If we can, in those sort of crucial moments, be having so many people make perfect plays, like BYU is really, really getting good down the stretch.
It's a tough ask, right? You can't ask Bear to make that play every time. In fact, I thought Bear had some moments. There was that underthrow to Carson Ryan that should have been a touchdown.
He had a dude in his face, though. But yes, if he puts one more foot on that ball. But it was man in his face, found the open guy, kind of tossed to him. But yeah, Carson having to stop made it a 15-yard play instead of a 40.
And looking back just at Carson's game, I thought Carson's catch for a touchdown was probably my second favorite like big play of the game. You know? And that was more just Carson making a play and his blockers downfield making plays. And I think some guys fell over, but that was a massive. Carson had that one touchdown catch, 4 catches, 79 yards in the touchdown. Should have been 2 touchdowns if Bear leads him. Carson had a great game. We already talked about his ability to block in the run game and the pass game. BYU did not punt until the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
And really, they punted once. It should have been twice, but they punted one time.
Okay, let's talk about the punt, though, the second one. Do you think that ball slipped out of his hands? Here's what I think.
I think he just like got scared.
Exactly. I think he made a business decision, whether conscious or subconscious, that he saw the rush coming and he thought, if I extend my leg and make myself vulnerable, I'm going to get crushed. And so he decided not to kick it. And
as he had already dropped the ball.
And it just looked horrible.
Yeah. You're probably right. Like you can tell like he's going to punt and he looks up and he sees the pass rush coming. And I don't know if he thinks I'm just going to keep it and run with it and like avoid the pass rush, or if he just like, it was like an oh crap moment and just totally forgot what he was doing for like a split second and the ball fell out of his hands.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't just like a slip out of his hands. It was like him looking up and realizing, oh crap, there's people coming fast. And not knowing what to do with it. And that's, chalk that up to him being, I don't think he's an underclassman. I don't know, shirts.
Second string punter, which those guys don't play much.
Nah. So we'll see. I think we'll see Vanderhaar next week. I would be surprised if we don't see him. And apparently Vanderhaar was like banged up. I don't know why he was still taking.
He has a minor injury that they think affected, because he was, as we all saw, he was not himself against Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And they thought, well, maybe this injury is affecting him. But my guess is that he's got something tweaked in his leg or something, because he was still holding. But so they thought it was not going to affect his ability to hold on place kicks, but they didn't let him punt.
So first 7 drives, field goal, which should have been a touchdown, right? If Parker catches that. Great throw, by the way, by Bear. Touchdown. Field goal. One of those could have been a touchdown to Carson Ryan if Bear leads him.
Mm-hmm.
And then finished with a touchdown in their first 7 drives. That's the best you can expect.
Yeah.
Almost perfect for an offensive coordinator for an offense. As you mentioned, averaging over 7 yards on first down. That's just the type of offensive game that you would hope for after what we saw against Texas Tech. Now, granted, Texas Tech has a phenomenal defense. They've got Heisman caliber a linebacker and Bailey as well on the edge. Like they've got studs on defense, and they're not TCU. But it's still like, we saw their loss to Kansas last year, and they kind of came out flat against Arizona after that loss. And I'm not saying like, oh, they should have. I would have expected them to lay down against Texas Tech, because I don't, right? Like, Kalani's not going to allow that to happen. But I did kind of have some reservations about this game, having just gotten blown out by Texas Tech. And for them to come out the way they did was great.
TCU was a good team. We didn't make them look like a good team on Saturday, but on the season, TCU has looked good. And who would have guessed, and I smile about it, that we live in a day where we play TCU and our athletes look faster.
And it's a bowl team. Like, it's a good team.
Correct. Like, for decades now, they have been the more athletic team every time we played them. I freaking love where we're at with athletes all over the field at BYU right now.
Cougar Nation, this one's for the fans who love the classics. TrueWear just released the RetroRunner collection, a lineup inspired by BYU's retro athletic era. The cream and royal RetroRunner BYU fade hat, the ultra soft A-Crew RetroRunner singular hoodie with throwback graphics, and the Cougar Permafrost backpack with sleek, modern lines and large pockets. It brings vintage energy back to game day. The RetroRunner collection is nostalgia built to perform and built to last. Visit store.cougarboard.com to shop the RetroRunner collection now before it disappears. Cougar alumni know what it means to rise and shout, and that's exactly what TrueWear Services helps your business do. They specialize in merch production, swag, uniforms, custom printing and design, plus web stores and fulfillment, so repping your company, team, or school is seamless. You've built the brand, now it's time to showcase it. Partner with TrueWear Services today and give your organization the same pride and polish you showed in Cougar Blue. Go to truewearservices.com/cougarboard to get started. So can they catapult that into then a win against Cincinnati? And this is the game after you lose to Texas Tech. This is the game that you have to win. And it helps a little bit that Cincinnati lost last week to Arizona. I don't think it helps that much, right? Because you still have potentially a tiebreaker situation with Utah and Cincinnati and potentially Houston and Arizona State, right? You've got these like still 2 lost teams in the conference that if BYU loses to Cincinnati, then you're dealing with tiebreakers, and I don't love BYU's chances in a tiebreaker situation. I feel like a tiebreaker favors Utah and Arizona State potentially. Because Arizona State has the win against Texas Tech, which helps them in overall opponent record. But by the numbers, let's just talk about Cincinnati by the numbers. I thought coming into last week that Cincinnati was going to be a much tougher game. I watched their game against Arizona, and I wasn't incredibly impressed with Brendan Sorsby, and I'll talk about his numbers in just a second. But they looked like a very beatable team.
Yeah, agreed. I'm ticked off right now in that we're only 2.5-point favorites. Mm-hmm. Like, at some point, we got to stand up for ourselves, and people got to get loud on why are we continually getting disrespected. I'm really sore on it with we should be ranked higher by the playoff committee. That, too, what is going on where Vegas week after week after week just disrespects us as well? It's great. We should and we better smack this team around. We're the better team than Cincinnati. We should be much more than a 2.5-point favorite. And we better come out and play and show everybody that we should be ranked a lot higher than we are right now.
Yeah, and the funny thing about Vegas is, like, there's no, like, respect or disrespect. I know what you mean in the sense of, like, we were just 3.5-point favorites against TCU and we blew them out by 30+.
Yeah.
There is, like, this kind of expectation of BYU, and maybe that's disrespectful. But Vegas is not – this is not, like, an arbitrary ranking, right? This is –
people are putting money on it.
This is like a big industry, right? You have to get it right. Like, they pay these guys a lot of money to put out the odds that they do, and then the gamblers are the ones that move the line up and down, right?
Yeah.
It's
so when I say Vegas, you're right. It's really the public that's behind it.
It's a public perception.
Correct.
Yep. But again, like, you're right. Like, 2.5-point favorites against Cincinnati, a team that's not going to be in the top 25 this week, against a BYU team that's probably going to be 10 or 11 in the college football playoff poll. Like, that's unreal. To me that's unreal.
Yeah.
And Breaking Cincinnati down as a team, they are a team that scores a lot. And when they score a lot, they win, right? They're 6-0 when scoring 30 plus. They're 1-3 when they score less than 30. Their only win when they scored less than 30 was against UCF, a terrible UCF team. So this is a team that wins when they score. They rely a lot on their offense. So they're third in scoring offense. They're seventh in scoring defense, fourth in total offense, 12th total defense. They have the third rushing offense. That's actually kind of surprising because I thought they were a better passing offense with Sorsby. They actually run pretty well as well. They're fifth in passing offense. They allow the most amount of sacks. And then they defensively, they don't turn you over through the air. They don't get a lot of interceptions, but they are fourth in fumbles recovered. So there's a little bit of a balance there.
Another interesting stat on them, and I learned this from Samsonite on Cougar Board, is they are dead last in all of college football in time of possession. Mm-hmm. So they do score a lot, like you said. They have a lot of games with over 30 points, but they do it fast.
Yes.
They don't do these long, sustained drives. They score in big plays and get off the field.
Yeah, and I was going to just say, like, that's very much a Brendan Sorsby product, right? So he's not an extremely accurate quarterback, but he does hit on quite a few home run balls. So he's a 60% passer, which is like below average. I think in the Big 12, it's not middle of the pack. It's below middle of the pack. In the Big 12, 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So he takes care of the ball. He's also elusive. He can run. He was a little bit gimpy against Arizona. I think that affected his ability to make plays with his feet, and it limited his ability to make plays with his arm because he couldn't run the ball. But that is kind of his bread and butter, right? So they take shots downfield with him, and he can be elusive in the pocket. He takes care of the ball. He does lead the conference in yards per completion. Again, that talks about his ability to hit the home run ball. His top target is Cyrus Allen, 41 catches, 572 yards, 10 touchdowns. That leads the conference, by the way, in terms of touchdown catches. But again, he looked banged up against Arizona. He was 15 of 28, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He just didn't look that great. And this is a team that relies very heavily. Again, we talked about how good they run the ball, but I do think that they pass to set up the run. So they're very much a pass first, rely on Brendan Sorsby type of offense. They're not like TCU, where TCU runs it or passes it 70-80% of the time, but they do rely heavily on their quarterback. And I think if he's banged up again against BYU, even if he's not, I think BYU can pretty hopefully easily contain him. And if they can keep Cincinnati under 30, which BYU's defense is very much capable of, I think they'll have a good time.
Yeah, BYU should. I think BYU rolls this Saturday. Cincinnati coming off of 2 straight losses. I think their players are. I don't think you brought up it's statistically possible. I don't think their players believe they're going to win the Big 12 championship, or even get in there. And anyway, they've lost to the good teams they've played this year. They did their only thing though. They did beat Iowa State when they were at home, so we can't overlook them. But I do think BYU wins, and I think we roll. Yeah. And again, like you said, they don't have as much to play for anymore. Having just lost to Arizona, they are now kind of reliant on tiebreakers, like BYU doesn't want to be, right? Yeah.
And so a lot less to play for. But I think it'll be an interesting game. And again, like if they win this game, it's smooth sailing, right? It's smooth. It's UCF, and then it's conference championship, and we can talk about this more next week, I think, because I do think that the conference, the CFP committee, has put BYU in a pretty bad spot, dropping them 5 spots after losing to Texas Tech. Because right now they're on the outside looking in. Oklahoma beating Alabama did BYU no favors, right?
Yeah.
Texas winning or losing their game does help. But
we're going to be 11 no matter what.
Probably, yep.
It'll be a really good sign if they could put us at 10.
We need to be 10.
Yes.
10 is the number.
Correct.
And
whether it's this week or one of the next, we got to jump somebody.
Yep.
And sooner the better.
We'll talk about resumes next week. I think Oregon and Notre Dame, there's a legitimate there's a legitimate claim for them to be.
BYU should be higher.
BYU should be ranked at least where they are.
Yes.
Justification-wise. We'll talk about that more next week. This episode is brought to you by Aptive Pest Control. Aptive believes that every home should be enjoyed. They tailor their pest control treatment plans to target pests when and where they're most active. Plus, if you see pest activity between treatments, Aptive will return to take care of the problem at no additional cost. It's their way of making sure every customer is satisfied and every pest is controlled. If pests stay away, Aptive is why. Visit AptivePestControl.com/loyalcougars or call 844-966-4787. Mention this promotion to get your initial treatment for just $29. That's AptivePestControl.com/loyalcougars or call 844-966-4787. Terms and conditions apply. Get home field advantage with Aptive. We've got about 10 minutes, and we haven't talked about basketball yet. And, I thought the Delaware game was a little bit concerning in the first half. And they came. Brian Swindlehurst, who we've had on the show before, our basketball guru, he said Delaware came out with the perfect blueprint to how to beat BYU, which is defensively they pack it in, and they ran a zone. That's what they do. They ran a zone, and they run a zone well, but they packed it in. They forced you to shoot a three, which is wild for BYU because last year they thrived on that. That was like their bread and butter was getting 3-point shots, open 3-point shots. This year, not so much, and we saw that against UConn. And then offensively, what they do, and UConn did a pretty good job of this, is they run the shot clock down to 10, 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And put up a shot with like 1 or 2 seconds left on the clock. They slow you down. They take the air out of the ball. If you can keep the ball out of AJ's hands and Richie's hands and Rob Wright's hands as much as possible throughout the game, you give yourself as much of a chance as possible. And we saw UConn do that in the first half, and they did it really well. So
that UConn game, couple thoughts. One, I freaking love that BYU is a big-time program where third parties are setting up games like this. Where we're playing UConn, the number 3 team, on prime time. Love it. I'm here for it. It was the tale of two halves. We looked horrible the first half. Like UConn in every way looked like, man, they are a well-oiled machine, and we are young and discombobulated and frazzled. But then, man, I loved that our team never actually just gave up. Mm-hmm. They stayed in the fight. They kept running their plays. They stuck to what coach was telling them. And we looked incredible in the second half. I am more optimistic about this team coming off that loss than I could have ever believed I would be. BYU is good. And we showed signs we can beat top teams. And I'm more excited about this basketball season after watching that game than I would have ever guessed I could be after a loss.
Yeah, right. It's wild to think that, BYU just lost by 2 on a neutral floor, pseudo road game to a top 5 team in the country. And we feel pretty good about it. We feel pretty I think analytically, and Mitch Harper said this on Cougar Tracks, I think they actually went up in KenPom. Their ranking actually increased after a loss, which is unheard of to me. But let's talk about kind of as you said, tale of two halves. I thought what UConn did really well and what BYU did very poorly is they did not shoot the ball, as you mentioned. And what UConn did to kind of force that as much as they could force that, I think BYU had decent shots. They just missed them. They basically begged Boscovich to shoot it from 3. And he did, right? That's what Boscovich does.
If you beg him to shoot it, he's going to shoot it.
He's like our current Jonathan Tavernari, right? The JT, obviously a much better shooter.
JT would hit him.
JT was just just no regard for anything else. Jimmer's on the floor. I don't care. I'm shooting the ball. And I love that about JT, right? And you love that about Boscovich in terms of his confidence, but he was not shooting the ball well. He was 1 of 6 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3. He was just killing BYU by taking these shots. And granted, Rob's finding him and he's open and you kind of want him to shoot it, but he's got to make.
He's got to hit some of those.
Got to make them.
Yeah.
Obviously, Keba's injury was massive. Kennard Davis not being in the game. It's wild to think that we only lost by 2 without Keba and Kennard. Keba for most of the game at least. And I think the first half really kind of highlighted BYU's lack of depth at the 5 spot. And I would even say maybe even lack of depth after their big 3, right? They've got AJ, they've got Rob, they've got Richie. I think they've got guys that have shown spark. I think Dawson Baker is a guy that has shown sparks, but they don't really have depth past their big 3.
Correct. And the next guy in line is Kennard Davis, where Kennard is he's fairly big. He's athletic. He can guard a big in spells. He can hit the 3. So without him, and I think that Keita might be out a while. Like when he stood back up and then he was like falling, it's
probably a concussion.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a week or two, right?
Well, it just depends. They're careful with those. I'm guessing 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeesh.
And so because this was not a normal concussion. The fact that he was laying there forever and then after several minutes was like knocked out on his feet.
Yeah.
So we need Diamande to step up. Like, he is incredible on defense, and he can fit that Kennard Davis role. Can we develop him so that he is this year's mag? Mm-hmm. That he can, out of nowhere, all of a sudden start hitting threes. That would be a game changer. This team has athletes all around. It's just, can we turn them into more complete basketball players to support those big three? And out of those big three, when will Richie start hitting his threes? Like, that is, he played great. I love his hustle. He always finds ways to score. But it has to be said, if he hits 1 or 2 threes, we win that game. Mm-hmm. Like, he had an open look in clutch. It was the right shot. It just didn't fall. I love me some Richie Saunders. I think that they will start falling. It's just like, let's start having that happen soon.
Yeah, 0 of 7 from 3. And it's not just this game too, right? Like he's got
he had the second half of Delaware. He hit threes. Outside of that, he hasn't hit threes this year.
Exactly. He had one half where he was a good three. So he's 57.5% effective field goal percentage this season. He was 61, almost 62% last season. He was 59.8 as a sophomore. So he's got his worst effective field goal percentage since his freshman year when he barely played, right? He barely got any time on the court. And that's got to improve, right? Like, they need Richie. Richie is one of their big three. They need him to score. That is why. Now, I will say, as you mentioned, he's finding ways to score, and a majority of his points are now coming from the free throw line, which is great. That's actually like a recipe for success. As much as people hate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the reason why he was playing it at an MVP caliber level was because he got to the free throw line.
Yep.
And that's probably the best way to improve your effective field goal percentage is to get to the free throw line. So Richie is forcing the issue by getting inside, right? He's getting shots at the rim. So, and I think he's averaging a career high in points per game, right? So more than he did last year, surprisingly, even though he's not making 3-pointers, he's still getting points. And you love to see that out of Richie. You just like, in terms of gravity, you have to start making your 3-pointers for teams to start respecting your ability to shoot from beyond the arc. And I'll say that's even more important this year because they don't have a mag. They don't have guys that they had last year that could hit from beyond the arc. AJ's not a phenomenal 3-point shooter. Rob Wright is a decent 3-point shooter, but he's been pretty spotty this year.
Yeah.
We saw Boscovich the last few games, not a great 3-point shooter. I think we expected him to be better, but he's not been.
Yep.
And so if you don't have Kennard on the floor, you don't have enough shooters, and you need shooters.
Correct.
Richie needs to be one of them.
Absolutely. And it would be great if AJ could develop into where he was a 37% 3-point shooter above. And Rob Wright, too. Last year, Rob Wright was 35%, so that's good enough to take him. I'd like for him to get a little bit better. AJ, though...
What a game.
Yeah.
What a game.
He looked like a legit NBA player in that second half.
Totally.
Like, his ability to get to his spots, rise, and against a pretty dang good setup defense, still find ways to get buckets. It was a sight to behold.
And it was after a pretty down literally everyone had a down first half. I think Rob Wright was the only one that was shooting above 50. He was. No, Richie was as well. So Richie was 3 of 5 in the first half. Rob was 3 of 6 in terms of field goal percentage. But AJ was 1 of 6 in the first half. 0 for 1 from 3. He only took 1 3-point shot, which is fine. You want AJ to get inside. That's not his bread and butter is 3-point shooting. We want him to get inside, but he was only 1 of 6. He dominated in the second half, and I think it's just because and you don't want to expect this too much out of a freshman, right? You don't want him to take over a game the entire game. You have to rely on your other guys. But when push came to shove and he was like, look, no one else is going to step up here. Richie's not making his shots. Like, Rob's not doing a whole lot. And so for him to score 21 points on 7 of 8 shooting, 2 of 2 from 3 in the second half, it shows you at least his capabilities. And these were not easy shots either, right? Like, he's backing guys down, taking like turnaround jumpers from the free throw line. He's like, spinning around at the rim and like getting different angles at the rim from tough spots. Like he was, as you mentioned, he was looking like every bit of an NBA player.
And he wasn't resting on defense. His defensive intensity, I think, is actually what sparked us in the second half. It also leads me to question, will we see the full court press a lot? I hope we do.
Yeah.
We have the athleticism and the length, and as we saw against a very good ball handling team in UConn, we gave them serious fits with our press. I hope we do it. Here's my question, though. Kevin Young has built this whole team and the whole recruiting pitch around, we play like an NBA team. We will prepare you for the NBA better than any team out there. Spoiler alert, no NBA teams press. It doesn't work in the NBA for some reason. But
you have better guards. You have guards
correct.
That can handle it.
Everyone can dribble and pass, or more guys can. But I actually am really hoping we say, well, we're still going to prep guys for the NBA, but we are going to play college-style basketball and press the crap out of teams and really force turnovers because, man, I think that was actually the key ingredient to why we were so much better in the second half. We were frazzling them, and it just gave us energy.
Yeah, it's give and take, right? I wouldn't want them to press every possession. It's like blitzing every play, right? Once you start expecting it, then you're going to start dialing up
You're not thinking we've become the new Rick Pitino of old?
I don't know. I mean, I think you could. I think you have the players too, but against the UConn team, they do have ball handlers, and they broke the press quite a few times. There was one or two times where AJ got the steal in the corner. It worked. And when you're in a desperate situation, it works at times. I wouldn't run it the entire game. I thought the same thing too. Actually, by the way, I was like, why are we not pressing the whole game? But I think that's a good. The analogy is like it's like you're blitzing every time in football.
The argument is UConn wasn't ready for it, and so if a team is ready for it, how well is it going to work?
There's a reason why coaches switch things. They get running. They play a zone. But not the whole game. They'll press, but not the whole game.
I want to see us try. I want to see
for some of the games.
Let's roll out next game. We are press, and let's see if teams can adapt and get by it. I think we have so much length and athleticism that it's going to give teams fits, even if they know it's coming.
Yeah, I am interested to see where BYU falls. By the time we get to conference play, it all starts though. I guess at least continues non-conference next week or this week on Friday. It's nice to see that they have a little bit of a break now between UConn and Wisconsin, but they got Wisconsin on Friday, and that's going to be a good test.
Correct. Another big time program, another fake neutral game. This time in our favor, just down the road in Salt Lake. Weird spell though. There's not another home game for BYU in a long time in basketball. So, but it's fun to watch on TV. What a great time to be alive. Everyone should pinch themselves. We have two probably top 10, at least top 15 in BYU in basketball and football. And we have ballers. We have an exciting couple months ahead.
You are always our positive voice of reason, Tosh. Always appreciate you coming on. Thank you again, as always.
Thank you.
This is the Loyal Cougars podcast. We're going to talk about the Wisconsin game next week. We'll talk about hopefully a win against Cincinnati and potential college football playoff implications, conference championship implications. That's all coming up next week on the Loyal Cougars podcast. I'm Jake Evans. That's Tosh Back and Tosh. We'll see you next week.
Have a good one.